2 weeks from today, the Bulls will be playing in their first preseason game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Training camp starts a week from today. It's almost here, guys. The season is almost here. But as we wait for this final week before things start picking back up again, I thought it would be a good time to do another Hot Takes video where I ask for your guys' latest and hottest Bulls takes for this upcoming season, and I do a video reacting to them. I love making these types of videos because it gets you guys involved in the content, and I'll of course have some of these episodes throughout the season, not once a week like I used to do way back in the day, but maybe once a month. In any event, in this video, we're going to be going over some of these takes that were submitted, and let me know your guys' reactions to some of these as well. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, before I highlight any specific take, I did want to combine a lot of the same or similar takes because I received so many from Bulls fans saying the Bulls are going to be a top 6, 5, even 4 seed, and that Coby White and or Josh Giddey are going to be all-stars. Like, I got about 6 or 7 of these submissions with the same overall theme. Like, I got at least 6 or 7 different submissions with this same overall theme, which is that the Bulls will be better than expected and that they'll be a top 6 team in the East this year, avoiding the play-in. So here's my perspective on this. We know the Eastern Conference is up for grabs. Not to say that you're going to finish with the best record in the East, that's up for grabs. We know that's most likely either going to be the Cavs or the Knicks, but outside of that, it's anyone's best guess how the rest of the East is going to shake out. Everyone expects the Magic to do well with the addition of Desmond Bane, but until we see that in action, we will not know. They also have to stay healthy, particularly Jalen Suggs, who has struggled to stay available. The Bucks, no idea how that team is going to show up when they have such little depth on their roster, and they added Miles Turner next to Giannis. The Pacers and Celtics, are they actually going to take a gap year and be really bad? Would they even go the tanking route, or are they actually going to try to compete still? The Sixers, will they be decent if they're now fully healthy? A big if. The Hawks, what about them? What are they going to do? Like, you get it, the East is open. There are so many ways in which this thing could go. So to say the Bulls will finish a top 6 team in the East, I wouldn't say it's out of the question. I think it's unlikely because everything really has to go right for the Bulls. Coby and Giddey continue to look great together and break out further from what we saw at the end of last season. Modest takes a huge leap. Asenge is better than expected in his rookie season. Ayo comes back healthy and looks even better than before. Patrick Williams wakes up and starts playing decent basketball. Everything has to go the Bulls' way, and things have to go south for other teams like injuries or a player falls off or has a worse than expected season. All of that has to happen for the Bulls to find themselves in the top 6 at the end of the season. But it's definitely not out of the question. If the Bulls were in the Western Conference, then no, I would say there is no chance in hell they finish in the top 6. But in the East, hey, anything can happen. I think the other thing that gives me pause in thinking this scenario is unlikely is that the Bulls' opening schedule, those first 10 or 11 games, are going to be so brutal. And if the Bulls get off to a slow start, are they going to be able to recover and find themselves back in the mix? Or does the front office actually use that as an opportunity to truly go down the tanking route and try and secure a top pick in 2026? Now, as it relates to Coby or Giddey, or even both becoming all-stars in 2026, well, it's definitely not going to be both. Like, unless the Bulls are a top 3 seed in the East heading towards the All-Star break, there is no way they're going to have 2 Bulls players in the All-Star game, regardless of the kind of season or numbers they're putting up. I would say even for one, it's still unlikely if the Bulls are not winning a lot of games. I think Coby is more likely, given the kind of a performance and numbers he was putting up in March and April. Those were all-star level numbers, and the Bulls were winning more often than not during that stretch. But either way, the Bulls have to be winning games to make this a reality. Being selected as an all-star is very much predicated on a team's record. Like, you have to be very good, putting up ridiculous numbers as the clear best player on your team to be selected as an all-star if you're sitting 15 games below 500 and 12th in the conference. Like, Zach LaVine was putting up damn near 50, 40, 90 shooting splits with a true shooting percentage over 64% and over 27 points per game for him to just barely make the all-star team in 2021 when the Bulls were sitting outside of the play-in. We weren't sure that Zach LaVine was actually going to be selected an all-star that year. Coby and Josh Giddey would have to be exceptional to become all-stars if the team is not winning. So anyway, now that we've addressed the numerous takes on that front, let's get into some of the more unique ones. Let's start with this one. Patrick Williams will have a breakout season. Well, that would be something. Look, as someone who has probably been a bigger Patrick Williams defender, a Pat believer for longer than I think I probably should have, my response to this is based on what? What would indicate that Patrick Williams, especially since we know he's going to be coming off the bench, he's already lost his starting spot, what makes you think he can suddenly have a breakout season? I hope you're right. I would love for it to be the case, but the guy is 24 years old. He's going into his 6th season. has never been consistent. For whatever reason, has gotten slower, lost his athleticism, his ball handling, and overall has gotten worse since his rookie year. We know what he is. He's a good defender, but is too timid and shy to do much of anything on offense. I think P. Will can be better. I think he can be better than what we saw last season, which was one of his worst to date. You can't really get much worse than that. But breaking out in year 6 as if everything is just going to click for him, nah, I don't see it. Let's do this next one. Bulls swing a trade for Rudy Gobert, Vucevic, and Ayo for Gobert, and a low salary player. Plus, Bulls send some picks, 2 firsts. The time to trade for Rudy Gobert was when everyone knew he was available, when the Jazz were going to be blowing things up, and a lot of people thought actually the Bulls were going to go all in and landing Gobert in that summer of 2022 until the Wolves grossly overpaid for him in a trade. Trading for Gobert now, especially if you have to give up picks, makes 0 sense for the Bulls. The Bulls would never do this. The Bulls have made a lot of dumb decisions in the past, but they're not going to go after an older center on the decline just when they finally reclaimed all their draft capital and got out of their bad contracts and got younger as a roster. It's just not happening. Next up, we've got this one. Noah Asenge will make an all-rookie team. I also received another similar one about Asenge and how he's going to have a better than expected rookie season and should be thrown into the rotation. My biggest disagreement on this is that I don't really see Asenge getting enough playing time to even remotely have a case of being selected for an all-rookie team. Now, whether or not he should be getting minutes, regardless of how ready he is another question, because yes, I would argue if you're going to prioritize youth and development, you need to be giving these guys playing time so they can learn. But we know Billy Donovan doesn't operate that way. We know the Bulls don't operate that way. They're trying to win. And because they're trying to win and because of all the spots on this roster, I just don't see how Asenge fits into the rotation unless there are injuries to players. Like, even though Modest was ready and looked decent from the start of the season last year, they really didn't start ramping up his playing time until after the All-Star break. Asenge is even more raw of a prospect than Modest was. He's 18 years old. This is a project player, not a player who is going to be ready to go and secure an all-rookie selection in year 1. Next, we've got this one. Modest Bucelis will make a defensive leap, a bigger defensive leap instead of an offensive leap. Interesting. I mean, I hope he makes a leap in both areas. If you're saying his offense is basically going to remain the same while his defense improves significantly, I'm not sure I would agree there. But if you're saying that he'll make greater strides in his defense than in offense, meaning his offense will still get better, but just not as much as his defense, then yeah, I would agree with that. Because as much as I see Modest turning into a very well-rounded offensive player with his ability to create his own shot, use his handles and athleticism to get to the rim, where I feel like Modest really has the ability to excel at is on the defensive end, because he's great at using his length to deter shots, even if he gets beat off the dribble and blocks shots from behind. He has a knack for reading screens and going under them. He has great lateral footwork to stay in front of his man on the perimeter. His off-ball defense is solid in that he knows where he needs to be and can anticipate passes and screens and can switch quickly without losing a beat. Yeah, I have high hopes for Modest defensively this season, which is something the Bulls really need when you're talking about interior defense and rim protection for this team. Next up, this one says the Bulls will re-sign Ayo and trade Kobe before the deadline in a trade for Walker Kessler. Interesting. I mean, I don't see why the Jazz would do this, even though Kobe is a better player than Kessler. They know Kessler's rim protection is very valuable in this league, and they would much prefer younger players or draft picks if they're going to move on from Walker Kessler. Getting Kobe doesn't really fit their overall strategy and timeline right now. But as far as re-signing Ayo and trading Kobe, yeah, I could see the Bulls going down this route. Like we talked about this before, how deciding what to do with Kobe and Ayo are going to be the Bulls' toughest decisions this year. And while I love both of those guys, I think it's more likely than not the Bulls only keep one of them. I tend to lean more towards Kobe because he's obviously a more impactful scorer, but if Kobe is going to be too expensive, too costly for them, and they perceive that he's going to walk in free agency, then it's very possible they look to re-sign Ayo since he'll be cheaper and try and trade Kobe while he's at his peak value on the trade market. How about this one? Julian will have a breakout season off the bench with 8 to 10 points per game. I mean, I could see it. I don't know if I would call 8 to 10 points per game being a breakout season, but I guess considering he hasn't really had much playing time in his first 2 years, that would certainly be a jump. I mean, he's only 21. So it's possible you could see this being the year where he takes that leap in his 3rd year. My only question is, whose minutes is he taking from last season? Because this is more or less the same roster post All-Star break that we saw last year. In fact, there is even less opportunity given the Bulls traded for Isaac Okoro when Lonzo Ball wasn't even out there in the second half of the season, which allowed for Phillips to have a spot in the rotation, With Modest, Okoro, Pat, hell even Ayo, I just don't see where Phillips fits in the rotation unless he really impresses in training camp where the coaching staff says, yeah, we need to find this guy some more minutes. How about this one? The Bulls will talk themselves out of trading Vucevic because they have a decent record by the deadline and try and re-sign him in the offseason after a second round exit. I'm sorry, what was that last part? Playoffs? Second round exit? I'll leave that part aside. So while I don't think this would happen, I also wouldn't put it past this front office to do something like this, where, like, if everything goes well, Vooch is playing like he did last year, the team looks solid, and there still isn't much trade interest in Vucevic on an expiring contract. Yeah, I could see an unlikely scenario where the Bulls opt to hold on to Vooch and re-sign him to a team-friendly deal and try and flip him the following year or in the offseason, similar to what they did with Lonzo Ball when they re-signed him. I think it would be a mistake if the Bulls went this route, because the longer you keep Vucevic, the more opportunities it's going to take away from the younger guys, and the longer you keep him, the less you're going to be able to get anything for him in a trade as he gets older. And hope that does not happen, but I would not be shocked if this scenario that you just laid out does in fact occur, except for the part where the Bulls are a second round exit. Anyway, guys, I will end it there for this edition of Your Bulls Hot Takes. Keep the takes coming. Let me know your reaction to these in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.